What's up, world? This is Men Do Talk. I am your host, Kyon, and today we'll be talking about fatherhood with a single father. Has been holding it down since day one. Stay tuned. We'll give you more.
Yeah. Hey, you know I got a testimony, right? I was just thinking about where I was at in life before I gave it up to God, and where I'm at now. It's been good to me. Let's go. Used to be smoked out, drinking whatever I could swallow, knowing that I'm sinning and still blessing the Bible.
My guest today is a singer, songwriter, and rapper, but his best accomplishment is being a single father. Welcome, John Reddick. So, John, how long have you been a single father?
Well, 5 years.
5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And what's some of the ups and downs of being a father, a single father?
Balancing your time correctly between, handling the things you need to do in reference to the house, and then also being there for your child.
With me, I was a young guy when I had my first child. I was 18 when I was told that she was pregnant, 19 when the child was born. Okay. He's 20 now, and there was a lot of back and forth over the years of custody over child support and all this here type of things like that. What's your stance on child support?
Try to keep the communication open as well as possible. Mm-hmm. Try to understand expectations as much as you can, so you don't have to get into the child support realm of the justice system. Mm-hmm. If you can actually be there and communicate, past all issues that you may have, just to make sure that the child is taken care of. And then also understanding that with supporting a child, the mother has to be okay as well.
I know it probably sounds stupid, but if the mama is not using that money towards the child, mm-hmm. why does she need child support? A lot of them, some of them, mm-hmm. the ones that I know, let's say it like that, ones that I know would be looking all nice, got the hair did, nails done, all this here type of stuff, and the child sometimes look raggedy. Yeah, completely.
And that's the communication. You know what I mean? And when I say communication, it's not just the father to the mother, it's the mother to the father. Like, it should be a situation where it's like, okay, yes, when the money's there, it's like, okay, well, I have to get so and so for the child or different things like that. And it's like, okay, it doesn't always have to be monetary hand passing. It could be actually purchasing what's needed. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, we're not all, it doesn't come with a handbook.
Right.
So we're not all equipped. Some people are in a place in their life where they're not really even focused on a child. So when they have a child, the focus is still not fully the child. They just don't see it.
Right.
But if everyone would be more understanding and be able to, create a better realm for the child, and sometimes it has to be where, the father goes and says, okay, I see that she's all nice and the child isn't. Okay, so this time I'm going to make sure that I get some outfits for the child, and I want to see the child wearing these outfits, because last time I saw the child, he didn't look how you looked. You see what I'm saying? But do it in a peaceful way, so the child has a peaceful experience with the parents.
Well, I've come across a bunch of different things dealing with fathers, where you got deadbeat fathers. Some of that is true for some deadbeat fathers, but some fathers are not really deadbeats.
Yeah, that word is very loosely.
Yeah, why is it that you think women call fathers deadbeat?
I never understood the concept of the word, to be honest with you. For me, I feel like basically the deadbeat thing comes in a place where they don't do what's needed when needed. You know, because a lot of times the parents have to understand, the one that doesn't have custody of the child, you have to understand that if the mother buys the child 4 pairs of shoes and then you go and buy 6, you didn't do what was needed. You did what you wanted to do. You did what you thought would look good on your side and other people's eyes. It's not for the care of the child. If I was in that situation, then I'm going to say, okay, well, what does he have? Well, he has this, but he needs this. So I'm going to get what he needs, because it's about the betterment of the child, not how I look out in the world. To me, if I could use the terminology, that's a deadbeat. Whether you don't do or if you do, if you're doing it for your own benefit and not for the child's benefit, the action is dead.
Yeah. So how old were you when you gained custody of your son?
I was 28, I believe.
And how did you feel about that when
I prayed? I prayed hard.
Okay.
I prayed every day. I put him in the car with me and I said, son, do you know who God is? And he'll remember this. We were actually on Palm Beach Island and I was driving him around and I was showing him the mansions and I told him, I said, son, these people, they had to think like a king to live like a boss. And I said, do you know who God is? And he said, yes. And I asked him who God is. He gave me a brief explanation. I went a little bit further, but I ended it with, because son, we're going to need him. I didn't know what was coming because I'm solely responsible for another human being, a living, breathing being. And I was just coming from being the Saturday and Sunday father to now being the full-time person. And if that doesn't humble you enough to either go before God or whatever you believe in, you might not be ready for that path.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's a hard deal. Even with single mothers, if you got to deal with a child or children by yourself and no one is helping, I can guarantee that that's not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, it's not.
So what do you do when your child is at fear?
I teach him to understand that it's okay for you to feel it, but it's not okay for you to live in it. He has a fear of a few things, and when I'm around, if we're confronted with those things, I'm standing right next to him and showing him, hey, I know you're afraid of that. There are things that I'm afraid of too, including police. But in those moments, you have to know how to act in order to either overcome it or be able to basically make it through it.
And now, what do you teach your son in the midst of what's going on right now?
There's so many levels to it, to be honest with you. The biggest thing that I do teach him though is if there's a moment, because we can all look back on certain experiences that we had in our life. If there's a moment where you can live on, take that moment. Being combative, talking to anyone like loosely, being disrespectful, then you get to the George Floyd situation. And then when you get to the George Floyd situation, then you have to explain, understand that you have to make sure that you comply. But if you feel like a situation like this could incur, try to do everything you can to live to see another day.
Right.
Thing is, for that situation like George Floyd, what could you exactly tell your child? There are unexplainable situations where you could give 100 different answers to it, and the only thing that really makes sense is nothing because the whole situation didn't make any sense.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, we can't give an answer and say this is what would have happened. Like, no. Now we're at a point to where, okay, let's go back in history and son, understand your history, understand where you are, understand you need to educate yourself on certain things, understand these things, because that was the most senseless thing I've ever really seen in my life.
Yeah.
So I don't really know, like, okay, son, make sure you comply until they put their knee on your neck and for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and kill you. I don't really know. My heart goes out to his family 100%, but man, the only answer to that is what we're getting out of it now. And that's the peaceful protest. That's the governors and the mayors standing up and calling for a change and calling for reform, because the only thing that I want my son to see is change out of that situation.
Yeah. And hopefully in the next years or so that it's not so hard for black people to live. Once we can all get along, I think this world would be a whole lot better.
The plague is difference of opinion. As soon as there's a difference of opinion in the situation, if you believe one thing and then it's going good, but then as soon as you say, well, I don't really see it like that, the whole conversation changes and it ends in basically going back and forth, being combative about the situation. And that's the number one thing that I treat my son. I feel like in order for him to fully understand, I don't want to take it to the police level all the time.
Right.
Sometimes it's just his interaction with friends. Like, if I see that, okay, he's talking about something and I'm like, okay, wait, you're getting a little bit too emotional too fast because you're not really listening to what they're saying. And when I break it down to him, he has that oh moment and I'm like, give everything a chance if it's not coming at you aggressively. Just because you don't believe it or it's a difference of opinion, don't let it plague our community.
True. Now, we're going to finish that on another show. We're gonna get back to
I
the
enjoyed
custody.
that though. Yeah.
So, what was the circumstances of how you gained custody of your child?
There were some extreme situations that happened to him, and basically he cried out to, some people and also family, and they did an investigation and found out that it was true.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to me and they asked me if I wanted custody of him, which my answer was of course.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he's here today. Just extreme situations, honestly.
Good. I mean, extreme situations calls for extreme measures.
Exactly.
So you may have to change your everyday,
Yeah, definitely.
to fix a situation. So,
Right.
So now, you're originally from Florida, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what caused you to come to Georgia?
He was having a rough time after all the situations that happened. Just being a normal kid, like his sleeping regimen was off. He had a lot of nightmares. He was young, but he literally could not go to bed if he wasn't laying with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And not out of love, but out of fear. And of course, I would never want him controlled by that. So, we were at my mother's house and she hadn't experienced it yet, but to the level that I have. So like, it actually happened in her house. And then that's when we all had the conversation, and then I had a conversation with him, and I said, come on, let's pray. And we prayed, and it just was set on my heart, by the Holy Spirit, of course, to call my brother who lived in Georgia already, so he can kind of set up things, like show me how to move around, how to get around once I got up here in order to start up here. And he just wanted to feel safe, and this was a safe place in his mind.
Okay, cool. Now, is the mother still playing a role in his life?
Presently, no.
And what do you think of that?
I mean, it was hard for her to embrace the loss of him.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that, it would be hard for anyone, you know what I mean? But she just withdrew from the situation, and I've just been doing everything.
When was the last time of contact?
Text, Christmas of 2018, actually talking roughly 4.5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a new one to me.
Yeah.
I would think that any mother would want to at least have some type of contact.
Yeah. With all due respect, pride begets the fall.
Yeah.
A prideful person is very hard for them to lose something, especially when the perception is validation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When you shoot for validation, like when I made my decision, at one time, because we weren't together, when I made my decision to be there for him and, be there for the other children, but not be with her, it didn't have to be validated by anybody. So for me, I feel like it's validation that really ignited the pride that caused what we're going through right now.
Okay. And what do you think the effect is that he's not with the mom?
God knows. I honestly, just to be honest, like, out of his mouth, there's a stern disdain. I can't lie. I always question and I always pray to God about what's truly in his heart, because it's not a situation where I don't want her to have a relationship. As I've said, I've had, when there was visitation going on and she was there, she had her own situation going on, and I would actually, drive over, pick them up, take them to the mall, keep my distance so they can have a conversation. Like, I wanted that relationship. But then there were some things that were said, not to me, but actually to him, you know what I mean, that kind of led up to where he is now. But like my mother says, and I always tell him, like, that's your mother regardless. You'll never have another one. So you may get to a certain age and, you're able to get her to, talk or, have that relationship, and I will never stand in the middle of that. I don't know why she got to this point, but I don't stand in the middle of them having a relationship whatsoever.
Right. That's one thing with my son. I never badmouth his mom in front of him, even though I'm pretty sure she has badmouthed me in front of him. But regardless of that, I don't want to be the one that is remembered as the person that's bad mouthing the other parent.
Right. I know where I've come from. I know the decisions that I've made. I've never made any decisions that got me a criminal record or, did a lot of the extreme things that we hear about. I mean, from any community, But I do know that I didn't always make the best decisions. And if people carried those decisions that I made into my future, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. So I wouldn't hold it against anybody who made a certain decision. You know what I mean? The thing about it is, and I want people to understand, no matter how extreme it was, God bless them to still be here. We don't know what the future holds. We have people dying in the middle of the street. We have children who are being completely starved. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when I say extreme, I don't go into details about what it is, but he's still here and he's still breathing. Now if it had not been that, I'm not gonna lie, it would have been a different story. But he was saved in time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And now we can move on and we can build a better future for him, because I don't want him to be broken for any reason.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay. What are some of the main obstacles you have encountered as a single father?
First, judgment. Okay. Single fathers sometimes tend to get the questionnaire. Where is the mother?
21 questions.
Are the mothers even? Is any woman involved? Did you really want to have custody of your son? Extreme questions that I never thought would come out of someone's mouth. I've never really brought it to the forefront because I want applause. Because if anybody knows about being a single parent, there's no applause in it. There's joyous moments, but it's real work and grind and dedication. Mm-hmm. Like, you gotta love what you do. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So it's like, but the questions that were being asked, I was kind of like, it's been a few years. I don't know if this question is valid right now, or I understand that it's very important for kids to have both parents, but I don't really, when it comes to single mothers, I don't really see, outside of their own family and people that know them, I don't really see single mothers getting the same questions. So it's like, what made you believe that it wouldn't work for a father to do it alone? And there's millions of fathers out there doing it.
Yeah, but I think most people expect the child to be with the mom, and it's just an everyday thing. But when you see a father being a single father and he's the only one that's taking care of the child, a lot of people like, do he know what he's doing?
Yeah.
Why is that?
And the question that I would ask them is, are you sure you know what you're doing? Does anybody know what they're doing?
Yeah, because everybody have to learn.
What we do is, to be honest with you, the first thing that I learned was you have to understand the character of the child. Mm-hmm. Because that's the only way that you can nurture a child. That's the only way you can train a child. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, not being judgmental, being observant, a lot of times I see people who would ask me the same question, and I see their child comes to me because their child says, I understand them. So you're asking me if I'm prepared. Your child comes to me. You're not prepared.
Right.
So it's like, it's just a thing where everything is different. Everybody's story is unique. You know what I mean?
Right.
There are things you have to learn, because we can look on this side. We can say a man is a disciplinarian, a woman is a nurturer, right? Mm-hmm. So a man raising a child, that child would be raised in a disciplined home. But without that nurturing, that discipline can turn to anger.
Right.
Right? That's a downfall for the men raising children alone. So the woman is a nurturer, right? But she may not be a full disciplinarian. I know a lot of great women who, man, they got it down. I can't lie.
Right.
But, there are some women who are nurturing, and then it turns their kid into a softer, less responsible child because they don't get the discipline that they deserve. Downfall for the woman. So is the question, should the topic really be, when you're talking about single parenting, should the topic really be, are you equipped? Or should the topic really be, man, we really need to get together and encourage these others to be the mother needs to be the nurturer. She needs to be there. The father needs to be the disciplinarian. He needs to be there. Or men need to step up and start a group to be fathers to kids who don't have fathers. You know what I mean? Right. That's the conversation, not are you equipped? Are you equipped to do it alone? Did you plan to do it alone? I don't think you plan to do it alone either.
Yeah. I don't think nobody has actually planned to be alone when it comes to a kid.
Right.
It's just certain circumstances that gets people to that point.
And let me answer that since I brought it up the way that I did. Raising my son trained me.
Okay.
Because when you're raising a child and you're a single parent,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you get that from. It's not an excuse. They get it from you.
Yeah.
So it changes you as a person. Like, man, like he's irresponsible about this. Like, I just don't oh yeah, I did leave that shirt on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You start to step up in certain ways because you want to be the example for them. So raising him made me a lot more responsible. So, I mean, I love every minute of it because I get to see a little me. I've been there since day one. Like, I was the one waking up in the middle of the night, changing Pampers and giving formula. Like, I've literally watched him grow from when he couldn't talk and he wanted to play monster to the kid that he is now. That's a blessing all in itself to watch the growth of a child, man.
Now, that's one thing that I didn't have too much of because of the circumstance of my situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, trying to better myself. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about my situation.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to better myself, I moved from Chicago, where I'm born and raised at, to a little town called Kankakee, Illinois. And at the time, me and the mom wasn't seeing eye to eye. Actually, we wasn't seeing eye to eye from him being 2 months old.
Wow.
And she did all kinds of things to try to break my spirit, you know. And what I did, I moved away to try to better myself for him. And there was months that go by that I don't see my son. It had even got so bad that it's been years that I haven't seen my son.
Wow.
Which was since I got married. Sometimes when females notice that a man is really not feeling them anymore, and moving on with his life, they try to do something to block the good.
Oh yeah, I went through the same thing.
Yeah, so yeah. I think it's been 5 years since I seen my son last.
Wow.
So it's a problem.
And you can only hope that in that moment that you get that time to communicate with him so he gets an understanding of who you are.
Right.
And is willing to build a relationship with you past anything that the mother said or what the appeal was at the moment. I completely understand that. I went through the same thing. Like, when basically we were both in a place to where we were trying to figure out, you know, the future journey, like, going on. And I told her basically that if something else happened, you know, because I was like working, you know what I mean? And then she had her ups and downs, but I was working and she came to a place to where I was trying to have a conversation with her to let her know, hey, if we lose this, it's time for us to separate so we can get stronger separately because we're going to end up hurting these kids if we can't figure it out together.
Right.
So so it did happen, and I left. So when I left, it was a battle. You know what I mean? Like, literally, like, my son experienced it where, you know, it was a battle to where it would get physical, not on my end, but to even see him. So I had to interject my mother to go get him in order for me to see him, because no matter what, you know what I mean? I was just trying to be civil with her, and it never worked out that way.
Yeah, it was crazy. Since I've been married, I've been living in Georgia. And normally when we both have family in Illinois. So when we go back, we would normally go pick him up, spend some time with him for a day or two, and then take him back. So normally I would call her, let her know that I'm coming in town for the weekend, you know, kind of have him ready or whatever the case may be. And to be honest, she lived about an hour from Chicago.
Okay.
So it's been plenty of times where I go out there, I call, he's not here. He's gone to his friend's house. Okay, well, can't you go get him from his friend's house so by the time I get there I can pick him up? No, I ain't going to get him. You should have called earlier. Not going to say the word, but
yeah,
I called you already and let you know that I'll be there for the weekend.
Right.
Just stupid stuff.
If you don't accentuate family, they're gonna find it. That's the reason why I ended up even going through the situations that I went through, because family was not accentuated, like, to let them know that family was important. So, you know, I'm not saying that that's what happened to him, but what I'm saying, a lot of times, a lot of guys end up in the streets or around that because they don't have an understanding of what family is. The father is not, protected or respected, even if he tries. So then they go looking for that bond that they don't have, and they find it in the wrong people. Right. So they don't understand how the future is affected by that. You know what I mean?
Okay. Now, if there was one thing that you could tell new fathers or men in general, what would that be?
Prepare yourself. Learn the sicknesses. Some things are very simple. Learn home remedies, because that car ride can sometimes be long to the hospital. Learn as much as you can and cherish every moment. They grow up so fast. Like, I remember, like, literally I feel like yesterday I was sniffing his neck because it smelled like formula. Right. And now he's walking around asking for Hawaiian pizza. You know, it's a crazy thing. You love the growth, but cherish every moment, man, because once it's gone, you can't go back and change it.
Right, because on my end, I would say the same thing. Cherish the moments that you can get, because I didn't get many. It seemed like my son went from 2 to 12 to 20. And 20 now. I had to make sure it wasn't 21. But it's crazy, because that time is something you can't get back. So one thing that I wish I could get was the time.
And to the children, because I've had this conversation with quite a few children. Never let the perception of someone else give you the answer to how somebody is. Meet the person for yourself.
Right.
I've had to tell children multiple times, and I'm saying it like that because it gets annoying. It's like, okay, because someone told you something about somebody that they're no longer connected to, you don't want to go see for yourself. How many times have you been told as a kid, don't hang out with this dude because this dude is weird, or right. Then you meet the dude and you find out the dude is really cool, and you're actually cooler with him than you are with the other person a lot. So never take somebody else's perception of somebody, no matter who it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a big thing, because we always talk about the adults, but then when these children get to a certain age, it's like, you can make concise decisions for yourself.
Right.
Make the right decision.
Yeah.
Don't go off of what somebody else is saying. Luckily he was younger, but then when he came to me and told me the things that was told to him, like, I was like, you don't believe that, right? I mean, I was there for you every weekend. You saw what I did, but based on what was said around him, I was a deadbeat dad. You know what I mean? But I'm like, you saw me knocking on the door, passing money. I'm pulling over on the side of the road, and I'm giving more money after I just gave her money on Friday. You know what I mean? Like, don't. Right. So, but at the same time, like, it was still there because that was his influence. But once you're past the influence, you get to a certain age, and what your mother says is like, all right, Mom, then you should be able to think for yourself and make the right decision for yourself. So make that decision to get to know people for yourself and not based on what other people are saying, please.
Okay. Cool. So, if anybody had any questions or anything like that, how could they contact you?
Don't. No. If you have any questions, you can go to @Reddick Jamal on IG, DM me, or you could go to @TerrorDomeENT. They can always get to me no matter where I'm at. But yeah, basically that's it.
Yeah. So that is coming to the end of the show. Again, if you have any questions for Reddick Jamal, J. Reddick, John. Again, you can either hit him up on his IG, or you can hit us at info@TerrorDome Entertainment with your questions, and we'll get them back to Mr. John Reddick Jamal. This is Kyon, your host of Men Do Talk, and we will hit you back with another one.
So good to be new.